Hello, third graders. This is our last week of reading. We are still continuing in the book, The Littles Go Exploring, and I will read a couple of chapters to you. And if you want to finish the story, you're more than welcome to email me, and I can get you the book to finish it. And also, it should be at your local library, which should be open soon, hopefully. Also, if you guys have books out, please bring them to the school and put them in a box. There's a box outside the library for returning your books. So hopefully if you have books, which I did send out notices this week, make sure you look for that in your stuff that you get from your teacher. Okay, so hopefully you guys have them. And if you have any questions, you can always email me. Okay, so we're on chapter 6. Last week they got their little boat, remember? And then they also made their own homemade boat out of a bottle and some blocks, which is pretty smart. So now we're on chapter 6. It was early morning, and the Littles were all set to begin their exploring trip to find out what happened to Grandpa Little. The sun had just come up, and it was burning off the fog that had formed during the night. Granny Little stood on the dock at the front of the boat. She wanted to be sure to see everything. "I'm glad I named this boat Discoverer," she said. "It is a good name," said Uncle Pete. He stood with Lucy near the anchor string. He was wearing a sailor's cap and a life jacket made from a cork that had been hollowed out. All the Littles wore these life jackets. It was one of Grandpa Little's ideas, which is pretty cool, huh? Mrs. Little was in the cabin fussing over baby Betsy. "She didn't get enough sleep," said Mrs. Little. "She'll be cranky all day." Mr. Little sat in the captain's chair at the wheel. He looked at the sky. "I hope Dinky gets here soon," he said. "We should be on our way." In the water nearby was the submarine raft. The Littles had tied leaves and twigs to the raft. They hoped that the big person or animal who saw it would think it was a piece of driftwood. Tom and Uncle Nick were to travel on ahead of the boat in the submarine raft. If they saw any danger in the water, they would signal to the boat. That might give the other Littles enough time to hide the boat along the shore. Suddenly a shout went up from the submarine raft. There they are!" Everyone looked up. So here's like a picture of their little life jackets. When they say so this is like a little cork that they just made a hole in it and then they put it around their tummies to make it a life jacket. Cousin Dinky and Della zoomed overhead in their blue and white glider. Della waved from the back seat. The glider circled the boat once and flew off down to the brook. Everyone on the boat ran to the side and looked over the railing. The submarine raft was already headed down the brook. Uncle Nick worked with a long pole trying to keep everyone going straight. Tom helped steer with a paddle made from a wooden ice cream scoop. "Let's go!" cried Mrs. Little. "We don't want them to get too far ahead." Uncle Pete and Lucy pulled in the anchor. The Discoverer began to drift down the brook. Uncle Pete called to Mr. Little, "Steady as you go. Well, there's a big rock on your sideboard." Mr. Little laughed. "I see it. You mean it's on your right side, don't you?" he asked. "Aye, aye, sir," said Uncle Pete. "Okay," Mr. Little said. The tiny man turned the wheel hard to the left. The boat swung slowly over that way. They missed the rock. "Gee," said Lucy, "it's a good boat, isn't it?" "Low bridge ahead," Mr. Little called. Sure enough, the Discoverer was moving quickly toward a low flow bridge. There's plenty of room," said Uncle Pete. "That bridge is 2 feet above the water." Here's a little picture of them. They've got their stick. They're using their little raft and their boat. Lucy looked up. "What about the radio antenna?" she asked. "Oh," said Uncle Pete. He yelled, "Will, get the antenna!" Mr. Little dropped the wheel. He ran to pull down the antenna, and just in time, too, as the boat went under the bridge. A rubber tire stuck in the brook ahead, sang out Uncle Pete. Mr. Little ran to the wheel. He turned it hard to the left. "This isn't easy," he said. "We better keep our eyes open." "You try to keep your eyes on what lies ahead, Will," Uncle Pete said. "I'll take care of everything else." "I've lost sight of the submarine raft," Mr. Little said. "It's gone around the bend and up ahead." "Here come Cousin Dinky and Della," Lucy yelled. The tiny glider came sailing along. As it passed over the boat, a small package fell with a little parachute and with the package underneath. Uncle Pete grabbed the pole with the fish hook on the end. He hooked the parachute out of the air as it drifted down alongside the boat. Look, so here's the little parachute. It's really tiny, and he got it. So let's see what they gave them. "Perfect," said Mr. Little. "Our first message." Uncle Pete opened the package. Lucy and Granny Little came over to hear the message. Stop immediately, read Uncle Pete. Children playing near the brook ahead. By this time, the boat was almost to the bend in the brook. Mr. Little steered it into the shallow water along the side of the brook. The tall grasses there made it a good hiding place. Uncle Pete pushed the anchor over to the side. They could hear children's voices nearby. Mr. Little climbed from the boat. Come on, he said. Let's go see what's going on. Nick and Tom are around the bend somewhere. Uncle Pete and Lucy followed Mr. Little. They ran along the shore to the bend of the brook. Mr. Little crouched down behind a beer can. He held his finger up to his lips. Shh. There, a few feet ahead, some children were throwing rocks into the water. Let's bomb it to pieces, shouted one of the boys. He threw a large stone. The water splashed. A piece of driftwood spun around in the water. I'll get it this time, yelled the other boy. He raised an arm to throw. Watch this. Oh, my goodness, said Mr. Little. It's the submarine raft, Uncle Pete said. Those nasty rats are trying to hit it with rocks. Oh, my goodness, poor Tom and Lucy. No, poor Tom, said Lucy. Okay, so now you can see it. So there they are in the little raft, and here's the boys throwing the rocks to try and hit it because they don't see that there's little people on it. That would be kind of scary. Back to the boat, said Mr. Little. We've got to rescue Tom and Nick. He grabbed Lucy's hand and ran. Uncle Pete limped after them as fast as he could. He climbed aboard the Discover. Get out the weapons chest, Uncle Pete, said Mr. Little. Lucy, you and your mother and Granny lift up the anchor. We've got to get going. In a few moments, the boat was moving forward. Uncle Pete opened the weapons chest. What now? He asked. Send up one of those firecracker rockets, said Mr. Little. Aim it so that it will go over the children's heads and behind them. Let's hope they run back to see what it is. Then we can slip through and find Nick and Tom. Uncle Pete got out one of the rockets and a match. Lucy, you'll have to hold the bottle just as I tell you, he said. Hurry, said Mr. Little. We're coming to the bend in the brook. They'll see us. The bottle was too heavy for Lucy. Granny Little and Mrs. Little helped her hold it in the right way. Uncle Pete lit the rocket and dropped it into the bottle. Whoosh! The rocket flew high up into the sky. It arched over the children's heads, leaving a trail of smoke. The big children didn't see the rocket. It fell toward the ground behind them. Bang! Hey, what was that? A firecracker? Someone's shooting firecrackers. Let's go see who it is. The children dropped their rocks and ran from the brook. The Discoverer came around the bend and floated toward the place where the children had been, but the submarine raft was nowhere to be seen. Hello, this is Glider calling Discoverer. It's Cousin Dinky and Della, Lucy said, on the walkie-talkie. Uncle Pete limped over to the radio. He pushed the talk button. Hello, Dinky, this is Peter. We'd better use code names, Cousin Dinky's voice came back, in case someone's listening. Okay, Glider, said Uncle Pete. Roger. What happened to us, Cousin Dinky? Is everyone all right? We can't find the submarine raft anywhere, said Uncle Pete. We've looked and looked, but it's disappeared. What are you going to do now? Asked Cousin Dinky. We're going on, said Uncle Pete. We figure they must have been ahead of us somewhere. Maybe you'd better stop so we can fly there and look around, said Dinky. Mr. Little spoke into the radio. Nope, we're coming into the dark woods. You stay where you are. We wouldn't be able to see much from above the trees anyway. If we run into any trouble, we'll give you a call on the walkie-talkie. All right, we understand, said Cousin Dinky. Good luck, everyone. It was Della on the walkie-talkie this time. Here's a little picture of them in the boat. So they don't know where the little submarine is with the kids on it. Roger, Della. Sorry, sir. Glider, said Uncle Pete. A shadow fell over the boat. This is it, said Mr. Little. The dark woods. Oh, dear, said Mrs. Little. I wish we could find Tom, said Lucy. Suddenly, what's that? It was Granny Little, who stood at the front of the boat, pointing to the water. It's Tom, yelled Lucy. He's swimming, and said Uncle Pete. Mr. Little turned the Discoverer toward the tiny swimming figure. There's something after him, screamed Lucy. What is it? It looks like a turtle, said Uncle Pete. Probably a snapping turtle. Oh, what are we going to do? Said Mrs. Little. The boat raced toward the boy and the turtle. You see? Uncle Pete grabbed up a bow from the weapons chest. He fitted an arrow to the bowstring. He drew back his arrow and aimed it at the turtle. Zing went the arrow. It sailed over the turtle's head and landed in the water. Hurry, Daddy, hurry, pleaded Lucy. Save him. Someone do something, said Mrs. Little. Granny Little ran to the weapons chest and grabbed for the first thing that she could find. She pulled out a spear. The old lady threw the spear over the railing at the turtle. It flopped into the water. However, the turtle saw the splash and he stopped for a second. In that moment, Mr. Little drove the Discoverer between the boy and the turtle. At the same time, Uncle Pete hit the turtle on its shell with a long pole. The turtle dived under the water and he swam off. Lucy leaned over the railing. Tom, Tom, she cried, get out of the water, hurry! Mom and Dad, get it, it's Tom! The Littles watched as the tiny boy, whoever he was, swam off for the shore. Well, I'll be, said Uncle Pete. He took off his sailor's cap and scratched his head. Look at that boy go. He swims like a fish. Who on earth is he? Oh dear, said Mrs. Little. I was sure it was Tom. She began to cry. Are you sure it wasn't Tom? Granny Little put her arm around Mrs. Little. There, there, she said. We'll find him wherever they are. Nick and Tom can take care of them. So now we see that there's more little people. So here's the kid and the snapping turtle, but it wasn't the brother. So we don't know who it is. That's kind of weird. And that's the end of that chapter. So if you guys want to read the rest of the story and find out where their adventures take them as they go exploring and trying to find Grandpa Little, let me know, email me, and I can get you the book. And this, again, this is The Littles Go Exploring. I hope you guys have a great summer and do a lot of reading. And if you see me in town, let me know what books you're reading. I'd love to know. I hope you guys are all doing well. And also, just please, please, please bring back your books. There is a box outside the library door. Put your books in it this week as you go get stuff from your teachers, okay? I will see you soon. Thank you so much. Bye.